from the 8 precepts, obviously, but I never saw this list before.
Did you ever read the Eightfold Path?
Of course, yes.
Then that's in the Eightfold Path. Now, the confusion lies is because there's 2 sets of 8 precepts. And the one people are familiar with, if you've been to Bhavana Society or in the monasteries, they observe what are called the monastic 8 precepts, which include not eating after noon, the discipline of what they follow in the monastery, and not watching shows and entertainments and using perfumes and cosmetics and so on, and not using high luxurious beds. So these are for people practicing more, like in a monastic setting, or people who just want that extra discipline. But those are not mentioned in the Eightfold Path, at least not all of them, most of those few there. And then what Bhante Ji calls the lifetime precepts, those are actually these precepts. But I like to call them the Eightfold Path precepts because they're in the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path is the teaching of the Buddha, it's what we practice. And so people often overlook that. And especially these don't have those stricter disciplines. So these are for lay people, because most people, lay people are not going to be practicing this, those 3 more difficult things, right? Especially within family settings and so on, very difficult to practice. But these extra, 4 of those are about speech, because that's where lay people are getting caught up in all these kind of speech, unwholesome speech, slandering, talking about other people, harsh, speech, 4-letter words and all that, and just frivolous talk. You get together at Christmas family reunions, and that's all people talk about is a bunch of nonsense, and get involved in arguments about politics or other things and so on. Anyway, so but it's specifically if you read the Eightfold Path, in the detailed Eightfold Path, not just the short version, but it mentions all of these. So
I was just confused because of the number 8, and then because these 8 only deal with 3 of the Eightfold Path, right? The virtue one, right action, right speech.
Right action is followed. These contain most of those 5 precepts.
Yes.
So
it's just the list. I got confused.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
I never saw this list before. I guess I didn't read the more detailed what you're talking.
Yeah. Well, also like right livelihood is not mentioned in this other lists, but because it's mentioned in the Eightfold Path, that's why we included it in this one, because it's also important, Any other questions about it? Okay, see what came up in
Can I ask about it's more of the thing about the disciples, the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 kind of individuals.
Yeah, that question comes up a lot because these are not usually discussed or explained, but in most kind of ordinary, especially among lay persons and so on. But it refers to the 4 stages of enlightenment, the 4 stages of entering the stream, once returning, never returning, and the arhat. So, the 4 pairs of persons for each stage, there's 2 stages. Or each of those stages, there are two phases. There's the path moment and the fruition moment. So there's somebody who's attained the path of stream entry, and then there's the person that's enjoying the fruit of that. Now this is a little bit complicated to understand, and there's differences of opinion on that, based on whether you follow Abhidhamma interpretation or some other interpretation following the suttas. And I'm not going to go into those details, but anyway, for each stage, there's the path of once returning and the fruition of once returning, the path of never returning and the fruition of never returning, the path of arhat and the one enjoying the fruit of the arhat. And because the path moment is like said to be just when you gain that glimpse of nibbana, and it's so radical, and then it takes time for the body and mind to kind of get used to that and become established in that. And so that's what some people consider to be the fruition. Because according to Abhidhamma, the fruit follows the path moment in the very next millisecond. And so if you take that as your logic, how can a person be said to exist in a millisecond? I mean, of course, theoretically you could argue it, but it doesn't really make sense. Because in the suttas, the Buddha talked about the actual person. There's a person who's on the path, and there's a person who's enjoying the fruits. So how can, it's kind of strange to say you're on the path for a millisecond, and that turns into fruition. So that's the argument between the Abhidhammas and people that usually go by the suttas, where the Buddha is very clear that these are individuals in different stages, path and fruition. But anyway,
so that would be the eight kinds of individuals.
Yeah, that's why it's a pair of, both are sotapannas, but one's is experiencing the path moment, is on the path, the other has got the fruition. That means his feet are stable. And so whenever you start something new, you're not very good at it yet. You still kind of have to do everything kind of cautiously. But then you get used to it and you can do it anytime, any place without even thinking about it. So in a very rough general comparison, you could see that the fruition is that way. And also it's the fruit of it. You're enjoying the fruit of those fetters being destroyed. Because each of those paths is tied together with the fetters being broken.
And that was a good question, because I always thought it was a male and female. That's what I thought always. Like
What?
4 stages, but Sangha like male and female. So I was thinking that. That was my understanding. But
No.
thanks for clarification.
I mean, it could be a male or a female, a man or a woman, but they can also be sotapanna.
Yeah, so I was thinking like male Shrotapan and female Shrotapan. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Anyway, let's go through the questions written on the box. about dancing and singing, why are they forbidden as part of 8 precepts? Again, this is only for monastics. It's a rule for monastics about this, not lay people. That's why you have to be clear about that. And monastics are supposed to be practicing at a so-called, let's say a higher level, or that means detachment. So singing and dancing entails some excitement. You're exciting the senses, right? Get carried away by singing or dancing, especially dancing, I suppose, but even singing, right? And so it's exciting for the nervous system. So person who's seriously meditating, they're trying to calm their nervous system. They're trying to get their nervous system to come down to a more refined level where it's not needing external stimulation. It's getting internal stimulation of being connected to the present moment and awareness and wisdom. That's the stimulation of the deeper mind, not the external stimulation. And so that's why those precepts are there.
It is suggested that lay people practice 8 precepts at least once a month, right? Sometimes it's suggested four times a month.
Well, yeah. It's good.
Yeah. And I mean, it would be a distraction, in other words, those type of activities.
Yeah, if you do it regularly, which the average person does, because people are listening to music all the time, or skateboarding and everything. They've always got these things on. So yeah, it's mainly for. So some people practice the precepts, like one who posts it a day or so. It's just but that's just for just an extra discipline. It's just for one day. Oh, one day I can go without dinner one day. With seeing those things.
Bhante. So a lay person have never got enlightened due to this kind of excitement and like inconsistency in a way, or have ever a lay person achieved enlightenment?
There's been a lot of lay people attain not the stage of arahant necessarily, but the other stages. Even while as a lay person using cosmetics and this and that. But those are very, you read about that in the suttas. But generally, it's, the more preoccupation you have in those things, it's going to be a distraction. When you sit to meditate, you're going to be thinking, oh, what kind of makeup am I going to wear tomorrow? Or should I wear this dress or that dress? What dance or what nightclub am I going to go to now? Or this and that. These are, because you got enough thoughts anyway, right? When you try to meditate. So, let alone adding a lot of unnecessary things. So, that's the proof is in the pudding. The things that's distracting your meditation, look at it. What is there? Why are these things there? Because you think about them. Whatever you think about in normal life, that's going to come into your mind in meditation. You can't just turn it off like a water faucet. At least not in the beginning. That's why this is called training rules. You're training yourself. It's like you have to train a dog, really untrained dog. You have to invite the dog whisperer to come. Train him to behave because it's not his nature to.
Can I follow on that previous question? So, because you value yoga, and some people describe yoga as meditation and movement. So, do you think there's some type of dance that could be approached in a similar way, that it's meditation and movement?
There could be. There might be, but I don't think the average person is doing that. You know, if something helps you to transcend the sense of self, in a way you could call that a kind of, meditation exercise. But, so, that's why there are so many of these things that have developed over the ages and millenniums, different types of practices that help to develop concentration and awareness. But again, the life of a monastic is, supposed to be, different. And so, it's another step up in training. How does becoming aware of the aggregates help with storms in the mind-body? When we become aware of the five aggregates, so we're aware of the physical form, and we're aware of what it is. And we're aware of feeling. That means we're able to watch it with detachment. And we're not clinging to it as I, me, or mine. We're just seeing these as impersonal phenomena. Just as you would see a stick of wood laying on the ground, you see this body. It's a body of four elements. Why do I call it me and mine and myself? It was produced by nature. And so you have a certain kind of detachment to it, although you know what affects it, it's what causes its pain, and when you do things to minimize it, but you don't get overly infatuated with it and want to use this body to make $1 million or whatever, or seduce others or whatever. You use it for the purpose of knowledge and mindfulness, the purpose of gaining progress on the path. And the same with feelings, perceptions, volition, and mental states. So the storm is when you start taking it for being me and mine and myself, and that these things change, and you worry about it. Oh my God! You go on and on and on. You start projecting the past, projecting into the future. What am I doing when I get old? Nobody's going to help me. You're worrying about all this because you identify. And the same with, and then you're feeding your habits. If you're not aware of your mental volitions and perceptions, you identify with them, and then that leads you to get more caught up in the web of karma. That's the storm. The storms of greed, hatred, and delusion. And the storms of the mind, fear, paranoia, obsession, all the whole gamut of mental states. These are the storms. Because we don't have awareness of them. And we've allowed ourselves just to get sucked in and carried away by them. And so that they keep coming up over and over and over. So therefore, becoming aware of the aggregates helps you to say, oh, anger is arising. This anger is not me, it's just a bubble. It's a conditioned bubble. It's not mine, it's not me. You see, it is just a bubble of emotion. So what? It becomes a storm when you say, I have the right to be angry. That dirty so-and-so. They did that to me. I'm going to get even. That's the storm. If it's just anger, it doesn't do anything. You might feel your jaw tightening up or your fist clenching. Relax. But no, we allow it to get worse and worse and worse. build up to a breaking point. That's the storm. But when you become aware of it for what it is, simply, it's just a perception. It's just an emotion. It's just a thought. And don't allow it to build up or do something that it is going to cause you some suffering.
It seems complicated, like, because in this, like, because then if you do act on a storm, and then in this forgiveness section where you're basically saying, I've done something wrong, I've acted badly.
Because of unmindfulness.
Yeah, because of unmindfulness, because of allowing what you just, that becoming angry and just justifying, and then acting out, and later you have regret, but it's like the I is really present in that regret too. I feel like it's hard to detach from.
You regret, but that's how you grow. If you don't regret, then you're going to keep doing it over and over and over again. So it's done as a way to acknowledge. You acknowledge that what you did was unskillful, and more importantly, you make the determination not to repeat it again. If you just regret it and keep on repeating the same old thing over and over, then of course it's not going to be that much fruitful. The point is that you see it as something unwholesome, and you try to be more mindful in the future by being aware of these aggregates and the power they have over you, and see how they're impermanent and without any core or essence. And hopefully then that will give you the cutting edge power not to get so caught.
So in a way that we, rather than identify with that rejection as a me, I make something wrong, we would say like, I reject this action that happened, and so it was an action that happened because it was kind of touched my feelings in a way.
It was just
So in a way I would be
automatic
detached, thinking about that, the action rather than me.
Yes. Like if somebody insults you, how does a normal person react to it?
So, how dare you?
Yeah, because we're identifying with this body. So they say, oh, you're this or that. What? They're insulting me. But if you see it, oh, this is just 5 aggregates. It's not me or mine. Then what's the beef? You're not going to feel any insult by it. And you understand that even the person who's saying that is just an empty 5 aggregate robot, essentially. People don't like to hear that.
What about something like either fear or jealousy? I mean, those. I guess anger I can see, but something where something's being taken away.
Because that strikes deeper to your ego. It's all about the ego. And if you push the buttons hard enough, it comes out, because at the ultimate end, the ego is about self-preservation.
Yeah, survival.
Actually, the Tibetans have a nice term for it, the self-cherishing I. Even though we think we're doing everything for others, when it comes down to it, the ego will protect itself. Maybe in extreme cases, a person is highly developed, they may actually sacrifice their life for others, but that's pretty much a rarity.
So when we tend to react too much or to be affected, emotional about things, that means that we are very much attached to that ego, right? To that identification of
Yeah,
that ego.
well, very much, or to whatever degree, yes.
problem is it.
And
it
so
is
even
attached
with
to-
praise and blame, the wise person doesn't get dejected because they get blamed. They don't get elated when they get praised because they see these as just, basically empty value judgments that some person is giving. Even the Buddha got blamed, breaking up families, stealing young men away from their families. The Buddha was doing it. He wasn't stealing them. People came on their own accord because they saw the Dhamma. So,
Bhante, what is the difference between I feel and ego?
the what? I what?
I consciousness, myself,
Yes.
myself, and ego.
I don't see any difference.
So that when one becomes a Sotapanna, Sakkaya Ditthi is gone.
That means the belief in the self is gone, not the actual feeling of self. It's the belief in the self.
But the ego is still there.
Because the ego means the sense of I.
So that's the thing.
It's not eliminated in a sotapanna.
There's no difference. Because then how come I, Sakkaya Ditthi, is rooted out?
Because it's the belief in the self.
Believe in self.
But the feeling of an I still hangs around in the mind because it's a very strong habit. And that's why it takes the next 3 stages to gradually root that out. Only the Arahant is totally free from a sense of I. Even an Anagami has mana. Mana means the I, the comparison.
That's
Oh, I'm a better meditator than that person. And it manifests in gross and subtler ways. So the Sakkaya Ditthi refers to the belief in the self. It's because you saw for a glimpse, for a fleeting moment, you had that experience when the last vestige of I consciousness had, faded away. And you had that glimpse of that emptiness. But it comes back because the mind is weak. But now you're convinced it's not real. Before you still had doubts. Well, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure. But with the experience of Sotapanna, that's why doubt and Sakkaya Ditthi go in the same group.
Yeah.
But so the sense of self wouldn't be so strong in the Sotapanna, but still, it's there. And that's what they work on. That's the rest of their work. Through the next 3 stages, that's what they're working on. And it's connected with sense desire. So that's why greed and hatred are not eliminated in a Sotapanna. And they're only weakened in a once-returner because of the sense of self. So sense desire and aversion, they're directly linked to the sense of ego. You can't have one without the other. So, and that's why you can see in that scheme of the 4 stages and the 10 fetters, those are intimately.
So then how do we deal with ego?
By developing anatta sanya, by over and over and over again, when you meditate, being able to experience that state of, emptiness, allowing the sense of self to fade away, and the more often you can do that and stay in that state for a longer period of time, that's the way it gradually, wears away. There's a simile given to that. Simile of washing some clothes in some strong smelling soap, right? So, you've got some dirty clothes and you wash it with some very strong smelling detergent. And then now the clothes are clean, but it still has the smell of the soap along with it for a while, right? But if you keep that long enough, that smell will go away. So the same way, even though the person's mind is clean from those Sakkaya Ditthi, the smell of the eye still hovers in the back of the mind. He knows it's an illusion, but it's still, it's still there because of the strength of the habit, because of the desires and the aversions are still strong. But as he goes on and he works on that, they gradually, fade away. What is the purpose of equanimity if we do not perceive anything? Who doesn't perceive anything? The only person who doesn't perceive anything is either an anagami and somebody in the 8th jhana, or an arhat, who's in Nirodha Samapatti. Otherwise you're perceiving. But that perception can be so subtle that it's like you're perceiving nothing, but at the same time, even the perception of infinite space is still a perception. And there's nothing else exists except infinite space. The immaterial jhanas, it's still called a perception. The perception of infinite space, the perception of nothingness. Even nothing is a perception. And that's why nibbana also is kind of like a perception.
What's the questioning?
It's difficult.
Can you just read it once?
What is the purpose of equanimity if we do not perceive anything? Equanimity normally means reacting to something. So we react to things that we perceive. You hear a sound, you react to it. Attachment or aversion. Or equanimity, you just stay without reaction. Sorrow, sadness, aversion or desire. It depends, I suppose. It could be usually it's a loss of desire. You feel sorrow or sadness because you've not gotten the object of your desire, or if you got it, it disappeared, right? So I would say it's more connected with desire. Now aversion is connected to greed. Because whenever somebody takes the desire away, we have aversion to them. The person that's obstructing our desire. Like a person insults you. You like to think that you're beautiful or intelligent or whatever, and somebody comes along and calls you, an ugly dummy. Then they're threatening your desire, your self-image. And so the aversion arises. So actually, anger comes from desire. That's why anger is the easiest thing to give up. Desire is a much stronger rooted thing. And the ego is even stronger because ego and desire are, closely related. That's why usually anger is easier to give up than desire. We only get angry when somebody threatens our object of our attachment. Otherwise, no need to get angry. Somebody insults our religion. What do you think about crying during meditation? Have you experienced this? Yes, I have. I mean, tears coming out. But there's different types of crying. One crying is where you have a loss, so you're crying because you're experiencing some pain or some loss or, something like that.
Which would be related to like attachment and desire
Yeah.
ultimately.
Or, baby cries that they're, in pain, so that's not really a desire, although it's just, pain, they might cry. But other people cry out of joy. And so, that can come from Dhamma also. When you get deep insight, and you realize, oh my God, the Buddha had to be enlightened in order to understand this, How could an ordinary person understand that? And so the tears well up, but it's tears of joy, not of sadness. It's the tears that are coming up from from that state of, just touching that kind of emotion of just that inner that sense of awe and so on. It kind of touches that emotion that causes a tear to come up. So I had a lot of those in my first few years of meditating, when I was really getting my deep insights. You want to hear it? So I was practicing on my first Vipassana retreat at Kanda Buddha Meditation Center in Sri Lanka. It was one of the premier Vipassana meditation centers, not the Goenka Vipassana. And so I was staying there on a 3-week retreat, and I was practicing this moment-to-moment attention that I was trying to describe to you today, and going through those insight knowledges. And like seeing those insight knowledge were very powerful. And there was we had to do walking meditation. So the schedule in a retreat is you meditate 1 hour, sitting, you get up, and you walk around for about an hour, you come back, you sit back down, and you do that the whole day long, sitting, walking, sitting. Or when you're taking a shower, but you're practicing moment-to-moment attention, lifting, stretching, hearing, turning, and you're tuning into that moment by moment activity of body and mind. It was very powerful, very, very, very powerful. But you have to sustain it for hours and hours. But anyway, so we had to walk around this block of cells in a building. Let's say the length of this hall, but there was 6 or 8 rooms on each side. Walk around, there's a pathway. And at the end there was a Buddha shrine with a nice Buddha image in there, some flowers. When I walked by there, something like a magnetic pull just pulled me in, and I was just sitting looking at the Buddha and saying, wow, what wisdom that guy had, too much. Like just, wow, how can anybody have that kind of wisdom? They can understand the mind like that. And explain the Dhamma. And I cried. But not like bawling and so on, but just, tears came up. But it was out of happiness that I discovered this. I was able to, discover it and have this opportunity to practice. Wow. Yeah. So, sometimes that kind of emotion comes, especially when you realize something that was in front of your face the whole life, but you never even saw it. And just a little tweaking, and incredible. Because that's the power of insights when you develop this kind of meditation and developing that penetrative mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. It uncovers what is not known before. You get joy. That's why joy is one of the enlightenment factors. The 7 factors of enlightenment. Joy comes after investigation of Dhamma and energy. You get joyful because you're getting close. You know, it's like a scientist getting close to the end of his experiment. He might have been working for months and months, even years, on an experiment, right, to discover a cure for something. And finally, he's getting that close, you know. He would be tremendously full of energy, could stay up day and night, not in taking any rest, to get to the end of his experiment, or her. And he'd be very happy. And that's what keeps you going. If you're not happy, you're not going to keep doing anything. That's why joy is very important. That's why piti and rapture and all these, you know, comes up in the concentration, but it comes up also in the vipassana meditation.
If you could cry because of joy, then maybe I
wouldn't call it crying.
I know, but tears are a very strange manifestation of the body, and I think like many times it's like in movies, like when the person finally cries, it's like then their sorrow ends, you know, this kind of a thing. So I was just questioning, even when if a tear is related to some kind of attachment, could it be a good thing?
Well, one example I give from my own experience. My father died, and I was out here in DC, or I was at Bhavana Society. And my mother said, you know, my father was getting weaker, and he was going to die, but you know, not yet. Then all of a sudden, she said, oh, you know, I get a call on Friday and said, he probably won't live out the weekend. So I immediately, as fast as I could, tried to get on an airplane flight and go out there. But I was 5 hours too late. But anyway, I went to the morgue, place where they kept the body. And because he was in a nursing home, so they took it and put it in. But then I had to go and identify the body because my mother didn't want to look at the dead body. So she asked me to, and it has to be identified, you know, the formality. So I went, and then I was with the body, and I had a tear come up, you know. I just one tear, I felt this, you know, kind of sensation, and I could feel that, you know, how you kind of sense the tears kind of welling up to the, you know, the edge of your eyeball, you know, and it kind of dribbles down like that. And I was just watching that, and I was, you know, but I wasn't sad that my dad died because he was already 91 years old, you know, he was at the end of his lifespan. So like that, but the tear did come. But you know, I wasn't crying or anything about it, you know, but I was sending him metta, and, you know, contemplating death and so on. So, you know, these things happen. And even my mother, she's 100 years old now. She even wants to die. She lived long enough. All of her friends are dead, and there's nothing to do. She's too weak to really do much anything, even though her mind and everything is quite in good condition. But, you know, and so I don't know. If she died, I probably wouldn't cry because there's nothing to cry for. Because if you understand the nature of life, everything has to die. And she lived a ripe old age, longer than most people even live, and she didn't suffer much. There was nothing to cry about. But could be a tear come just because of a deep instinctual thing or something. But it could be a tear that, you know, she's finally released from her body, that she can't do much with anymore. So she wants to leave. But for some reason, that, you know, karma's not ready for her to leave at this moment. As it hangs around, but there's nothing to cry about. The person dies. And then the crying is for the, you know, attachment. At least, you know, bawling and crying like you're really, you know, they shouldn't have died, whatever. Okay, anyway, let's. I don't know if I answered this question satisfactorily enough, but